Brian, how do your goals change as you kind of progress to year four here? Like, what are some of the things you want to get out of this season and build on from last year?
I want to get, my group, our offensive line and offense functioning at a high level. And I want to be back in the playoffs, and I want to make a run at this thing. And I think that's, been stated pretty clearly around here that that's the expectation and that's the goal.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in. That opening clip was Vikings offensive tackle Brian O'Neill talking about the offensive line, the goals for 2021, getting back to the playoffs, and I could not agree more with what he had to say. And having said that, we're going to jump in today talking about the 5 days of OTAs the Minnesota Vikings have had so far, with a focus on the offensive line. So we'll talk about some player notes. We'll go over who's been getting what reps and my overall thoughts on the situation so far. So let's begin. So we're going to open up with some news on Christian Darrisaw and the fact that he missed yesterday's practice at OTAs, and he is currently dealing with a pulled groin. To what the extent of the injury actually is, I'm not sure, but it doesn't sound like it's severe or anything that they're worried about. So Christian Darrisaw will likely be back sooner than later. He has not taken any first-team reps yet, but that, of course, is by design. It is still early in the off season. We've only been doing organized team activities for a little, almost a week now. So eventually he'll break into that. But so far he's been running with the second team, and he's missed a couple of practices because of the injury. Moving on to Brian O'Neill, who was in the opening clip that we just saw. He spoke with the media about the looming contract extension that is going to be coming up for him. And he said, quote, "Nothing would make me happier than to be here long term." So he is definitely interested in being a member of the Minnesota Vikings for a long time. And I would like to see that. I think he has been one of the better surprises out of the handful of recent drafts that we have had when it comes to the offensive line. Finding a solid right tackle who has been, better than expected, at least in my opinion, because I don't think there was many expectations for him when he first came out of college, but they've done well in finding and realizing his potential, and he is definitely a solid starter on the right side with some potential talk to move him over to left, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Ezra Cleveland also spoke with the media, talked about his permanent move to the guard position because Dakota Dozier looks like he is going to be backing up right guard for Wyatt Davis, the rookie out of Ohio State this year, as a third-round draft pick. And I think the consensus has been, for myself and just about everybody else, on the internet who's a fan of this team and follows this team, is that you don't want two rookies on the left side of the offensive line, right? Christian Darrisaw at left tackle and Wyatt Davis at left guard. So it only makes sense for Wyatt Davis, the other rookie, to be on the other side of the offensive line, have a veteran presence on the left side in Ezra Cleveland to protect the blind side of Kirk Cousins. So Ezra Cleveland was drafted out of Boise State as an offensive tackle. I can't remember if he was a second or third round pick. That escapes me at the moment. I believe it was a second round pick. And he played the entirety of his last season at the right guard position. Didn't start right away, of course. Drew Samia and Dakota Dozier were sort of the revolving doors at the guard positions for the first half of the season, and then eventually Ezra Cleveland came in. Didn't do terrible, but he spoke with the media about the permanent move because it's all but solidified that he will not be playing tackle unless it's an absolute emergency because of the current depth of the position where we have Christian Darrisaw, the rookie Brian O'Neill, who we've talked about, and Rashad Hill, who is a returning free agent with a boatload of experience being the swing tackle. So he was asked about the permanent move to the guard position, and he said that knowing that he'll be he'll be one of the guards, that is going to help him focus more so than ever as compared to last season, where it was still sort of up in the air as what his role would be. So with a predetermined position selected for him, knowing that he's going to be an offensive guard for the entirety of the season, as we said, of course, unless there's an absolute emergency, which God forbid, this will help him focus on his game, help him focus on his footwork, what he needs to do specifically as a guard as opposed to a tackle, or just as opposed to maybe prepping for two positions instead of just one. So he sounds like he's pretty satisfied being a contributor on the offensive line at a position that he didn't play in college. So that's good news. And of course, Wyatt Davis, I just wanted to mention, taking second team reps at right guard, which is not something that's new. That's something that we heard first when they first started, practices and organized team activities where he would be on the offensive line. And as we said, it makes sense to have the rookies be separate. So having gone over individual player notes, let's talk about the first team reps. Who has been the first team offensive line? Because I think this is the part of, the OTAs so far that if you don't really look at the context of the situation, you're looking at this first team offensive line that's getting the majority of the first team reps, and you're going, what the hell are they thinking? And I almost made a video. I came close where I was going to say, you know what? I've been quiet for long enough. I don't like this. But having taken a second to sort of, remove myself from the situation as a fan and look at this critically, it's fine. It's nothing to be panicked about. If you want to be aware, be aware of where in the room that the panic button is, that's totally acceptable. But there's no reason to start inching towards it. We're totally okay leaving the panic button on the other side of the room and sitting over here and not worrying about this too much, because for a variety of reasons, which we'll get into right now. But first, who is taking first team reps on offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings? It may come as some surprise to people, but this is just what they're doing so far in the beginning. So at left tackle, we have Rashad Hill. At left guard, we have Ezra Cleveland. At center, we have Garrett Bradbury. Right guard, we have Dakota Dozier. And right tackle, we have Brian O'Neill. So the two names on that list that people are going to freak out about is obviously going to be Rashad Hill and Dakota Dozier, right? Because I think Vikings fans, at least 99% of them, want nothing more to do ever with Dakota Dozier. After last season, we're done with him. And we all keep regurgitating the same PFF stats and rankings about how he's one of the worst interior offensive linemen in the league last year. We want nothing to do with him. And anytime we see him as taking first team reps, in this situation, of course, we're all going, what the hell are you thinking? Like the armchair coaches start coming out inside of all of us, right? So team reporter Eric Smith did a live Q&A session on Vikings.com with fans, and he sort of addressed some of the offensive line issues, which I will share with you now. So he was asked, why is Christian Darrisaw not with the starting offensive line unit? And Eric Smith said that he expects Christian Darrisaw to take over the left tackle job by midway through camp, if not earlier. He also reminds the fans that it is only June. Nothing is set in stone as we go through the early portions of organized team activities. We still have to get to camp. We still have preseason. There's plenty that can happen and change between now and then. And Christian Darrisaw is a talented first-round pick who is definitely more than capable of beating out Rashad Hill for the starting left tackle position. So as Eric Smith says, and as I would also like to reiterate, this is not the time to panic. So thoughts overall on the offensive line situation in the early portions of OTAs. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to provide the context that this is early. It's June. It's the first week of June. We don't need to panic about anything. So it rubs me the wrong way that Dakota Dozier is getting first team reps over Wyatt Davis, because I think I would rather have Wyatt Davis, who projects to be a much better player than Dakota Dozier was last year, getting as much time and reps with the first team, Garrett Bradbury and Brian O'Neill specifically, because he's the guy, those are the two guys that he'll be playing in the middle of, and sort of getting a chance to gel and used to the next level of football, especially from, first team edge rushers and defensive linemen. So that is my take on that situation. I have no concerns about Christian Darrisaw not taking first team reps yet with the offensive line. The injury is a little bit of, a bump in the road. It doesn't sound like it's severe. It's something that he's just going to have to deal with. Injuries happen. It's going to happen to every team. Nothing to be concerned about that yet. If this turns into a situation where they're lying to us once again, because I'm still a little, traumatized from last year when they were like, oh yeah, Danielle Hunter, he's not practicing and he's not going to play. He just has a tweak. And the tweak turned out to be season-ending neck surgery. So forgive me if I don't believe you when when you tell me the severity of an injury, especially to a player as critical as the starting left tackle. Rashad Hill taking first team reps at left tackle right now doesn't signal anything to me other than that they have a strong desire to keep Brian O'Neill at right tackle. And I do believe that that's because of the upcoming contract negotiations that they're going to be having with him, and mostly because it would be a lot cheaper to sign him as a right tackle to an extension as opposed to giving him left tackle money if he were to have to take over that position. So I think they're going to do what they can to keep Brian O'Neill's price tag extremely low, and the best way that they could do that is to have him stay at the right tackle. And as I said before, I do want Wyatt Davis, the third-round pick from Ohio State, to take over for Dakota Dozier as soon as possible. That is the one thing that after this first week of OTAs that I can say with emphasis that I'm really interested in seeing happen. Overall, it's a big year for this group. I do have high expectations that things are going to get better. I would like to no longer use the offensive line as an excuse for why this team or Kirk Cousins in particular does poorly, how good can they be with 2 rookie starters potentially if, Wyatt Davis ends up winning the right guard job, which I expect him to, and I think we all do. It remains to be seen. I don't know how much better that this offensive line could be unless, the starting left tackle is a rookie, he pans out, a starting right guard as a rookie pans out, and Garrett Bradbury figures out a way to remember how to play the center position at an exceptional level, because ever since he's been in the league, he's been sort of plateaued / trending downward, and I think he needs to have a bigger season to make this unit extremely cohesive. And then the other thing is that we just got to hope and pray that no injuries occur, because the depth at this position still isn't that great. I don't think we want to see a situation where we are forced to see Dakota Dozier into starting action for the Minnesota Vikings on the offensive line in 2021. So that's going to do it for this video, this update on the OTA so far, with a primary focus under the microscope with the offensive line. Let me know what you think about all of these situations in the comments below. Are you concerned at all about the lack of first-team reps so far for any of the rookies? What do you think about Brian O'Neill and the contract negotiation / situation that's coming up for him? And that's going to do it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.